Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Landscape Marketing Secrets. Last week's guest was so awesome, we brought him back. So we did a two-part series. Last week was on search engine marketing, SEM. And this week, we're going to talk about search engine optimization, SEO. And so I brought back Mr. Jeff Gutowski from Break the Image. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, thank you for having me back again.
How have you been since we last talked?
I know, it's been so long. Things are good. Things are good.
And I decided to divide this into two episodes because they're both so important. And would you say, how often do people get confused between SEO and SEM?
The majority of the time. the majority of the time. Yep.
And my guess is they probably call SEM SEO.
Correct, or vice versa, yes.
Okay.
And they'll be having a conversation about SEM when the conversation is actually SEO or vice versa. So yes, it happens frequently.
SEM, as we discussed last week, is search engine marketing, which are things that involve money, things that you're spending, like what's been called pay-per-click, Google ads, those retargeting ads, things like that.
Yep.
So what is SEO?
So SEO would be search engine optimization. And in a nutshell, that is how are you optimizing how your website or your online presence in general shows up when someone is searching on Google. Please keep in mind that this is not when someone is searching for your company by name. Keep in mind that if someone is searching for your company by name, they probably already know you or have been referred to you. It is very easy because the majority of company names are unique. There's not a lot of companies in the same service arena that have the exact same name. There may be companies out there that have the same name, but chances are they're not in the same state or same service area. So
right.
That's a unique issue if that happens.
I have clients with the same company name.
Yeah.
So, like you said, in different states, but it confuses me.
I'm sure absolutely, that is confusing. But search engine optimization is services or products that you offer. How are you being found for those words? The people that don't know you or don't know your company are not going to Google and randomly typing in your company name and finding you. They're typing in the product or the service that you offer and raising their hand and saying, I need or I want this. So when people are typing in those general terms, how is your website being presented? And Google looks at that as, are you an authority, quote unquote, in the product or service that someone is searching for?
And one thing I regret is we named our company after ourselves, which looking back now, and our competitor named their company a way better name. And I'm not bitter, I'm bitter. But, you know, at the time, and it's a cool name, Acqua Reale, which means real water in Italian. But, you know, like you said, no one's going to be searching for Acqua Reale unless they know who we are.
Sure.
So how do I make them? So let's say people are going to search for, like whenever my son and I just went to Chicago and I just kept putting in food near me, breakfast near me, dinner near me. I wasn't putting in Yoke, which is the name of a breakfast place, because I didn't know the name.
Yep.
So how did those restaurants come up to me?
Yeah, so it comes down to how you have your online presence. And what that means is on your website, are those terms that people are searching for, number one, are they present? And then are they present in a way where not just humans can read them, but can the Google robots that scan your website, can they read those terms? Meaning if you have blogs or articles, whatever pick your poison and what you want to call them, but blog posts is mainly what they're referred to, is the keyword that people are searching for. Is that present in the title? Is it present in the first paragraph? Is it repeated a couple times throughout the text? Are your images on your website, which is a big thing that people think, oh, I put images on my website. Great, they look good. When you go on, and this is a tip for anybody to self-audit, a quick SEO tip. If you pull up the homepage of your website and you have an image on there, right-click on that image in Google Chrome and then go to Save Image As and take a look at what that image is labeled. The majority of people, that image will be labeled IMG_0083 or whatever the iPhone or camera labels their pictures as. Now, go to Google and type in the service that you offer,
Yeah.
especially if you are an aesthetic based business,
Yeah.
meaning ponds, landscaping, dresses, anything like that. Go to Google and then click on images, which in your industry, in the contractor industry, landscaping industry, people are visual. They want to see your work. If your image is labeled IMG0082, it's not showing up under the service that they offer. So that should be, landscape edging, whatever your company name is. So when someone types in landscape edging, you have an opportunity to show up in the image library as well, not just in the Google web results,
Yeah.
but now you're showing up in the image library as well.
And that's huge because that's something, I'll be totally honest, you told me was missing on my website. So it's something
Yep.
I'm addressing.
Yep. And it's
And
little things like that that make a huge difference.
it's interesting you said that because what my weekly tip last week was, or 2 weeks ago, was actually about photos.
Yep.
And about how everyone thinks they're a photographer, and just because you have an iPhone doesn't make you a photographer. And that
Sure.
doesn't mean you can't take good pictures with an iPhone, but like my guys take terrible pictures. Every picture has like a hose in it or a bucket or someone's shoe. I'm like, guys, like just look at the picture and what do you see? But
Yep.
I think people don't, with SEO, like you're saying, photos are very, very important. Not only what they look like, but what they're labeled as.
Yep. Absolutely. The other big piece that SEO that a lot of people overlook, and I know we're kind of diving right in head first here, but
Yeah.
the other big piece that people overlook, when you go to Google and you type in a question,
Yeah.
you'll notice that there's a knowledge panel about halfway down. Typically, there's about 4 or 5 results, and then there's commonly asked questions. When you're writing a blog post or an article or a service page in your website, make sure that you have an FAQ page on there. Make sure that you have an FAQ section. And in order to figure out, well, what frequently asked questions do I want to ask? Go to Google and type in some questions that you're thinking about and see what people are actually searching for. And there's a lot of tools out there that'll give you that stuff, which we can type up a description. I can share some of these tools with your audience,
That'd be
but
great.
it'll give you an overview of what questions you need to answer. The guesswork is already done for you because Google tracks what every single person is searching for and some other things that there's discrepancies about, but Google tracks a ton of stuff about what we do. Use that stuff to your, the positive, right? Don't focus on the negative of what they're tracking, and make sure with those FAQs, you're answering those questions so that your website shows up as the one that's answering those questions.
Marcus
It's
Sheridan, they ask, you answer.
but it's a free way to drive traffic that people are overlooking. They're like, oh, well, I don't need an FAQ, but yes, you do. Maybe people aren't going to read it. That's fine. Google's going to read it.
Oh, now that's something else I'm missing. I feel like this big. I don't have an FAQ page, but I will. I will.
Yep.
So it just shows you're always learning, always growing, even us who, considered a very successful company, but there's always room for improvement. So are you saying then, for example, because sometimes like I'll put in just the word breakfast and it'll autofill near me.
Yep.
So the same thing. So can I put in my pond and then kind of see what it says?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
So let Google auto populate that stuff, and it's best to do that from a desktop. I know that it works on mobile as well, but typically on a desktop, you're going to be in the area where your business is.
Right.
A lot of times on mobile, you may be traveling wherever, and those results are going to be a little bit skewed based on that area where you're located right now. So it's best to do that from a desktop and type in some stuff. This is where you have to step outside of the business owner perspective.
And be the
you got to be
customer.
able to search and be the customer and go through your natural progression of, I'm looking for a product or service. What do I do?
And you can't, like you're saying, you can't make the customer who you want them to be. You need to follow who they are.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so you can't say, well, I want them to search for this. Well, I can want, whatever, but it doesn't mean it's happening.
Yeah. And it comes down to having a content strategy. And this is where most people struggle. Like you said, with the pictures, most people struggle with documenting their work or documenting the journey of a pond build, of a landscaping, and making sure that we have before, during, and after pictures with that stuff so that we can populate that content. But I would challenge anybody that's scared of blogging or scared of coming up with content to do one thing, and that would be just journal your day. One
Mm,
day in the life of a business owner, journal your stuff. And I guarantee you have at least double-digit topics for blogs or different things. And I'm not talking about a Saturday where you're out with the family not doing work. I'm talking about a day where shit's hitting the fan or there's problems that need to be solved. And in any construction or service-based business, there's at least 2 or 3 problems a day that pop up, whether it's with employees, customers, or a unique job thing. Those are blog things, because here's what your customers want to hear is they want the behind the scenes stuff.
right.
That's the type of stuff that people are typing into Google. What does my finished basement look like? What are my flooring options in my basement?
Yeah.
And you going through, just had this customer, Mr. Smith, we discussed these flooring options. This is what I recommended, and here's why. Your article is going to pop up because it's great for your homepage to pop up.
Right.
It's even better if you can get somebody reading a blog or consuming your content, because the time that you get someone to stay on your website is more important than anything. If people are consuming your content, they're interested in some level, and the chances of them converting into a paid client are extremely elevated versus someone that just clicked on the homepage. Nope, I'm done.
And I would like to quickly give myself a call out that I write blogs for people.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
if you don't know how to do it, and I know the answer is going to be, well, I don't read it, but that's what I tell people too, is it's for SEO as
Yep,
much as it's for information.
absolutely. Yes.
Because I mean, I do, but I'm really weird. Like most people don't go to a website and check out their blogs. Like
No.
you said, it's more. So I actually, tell me if this is right or wrong, but you're probably going to tell me it's wrong. And then I'm going to be like, oh. So I literally named a blog a couple weeks ago, Stormwater Near Me or
Yeah.
Stormwater Management Near Me.
So that works. You want to make sure that you're not doing that. Like, that's not the norm for you, right?
Right.
Because keyword stuffing and those keyword penalties are a real thing.
Okay.
And Google will penalize you for that stuff if that becomes the norm.
I just did it
But
once. And then I wrote, it made sense in the article where I wrote, people might be asking, where are stormwater management options near me? You know, so
Yep.
turn it. So it's not just like a clickbait. It's actually, you know, I addressed it.
Yep, absolutely.
But so what you're saying is look for what people are looking for instead of just assuming. And sometimes, like in our business, we have a problem where we use words that no one else uses.
Yep.
So we will call it a water feature, but other people might call it a fountain.
Yep.
And other people might, you know, we might call it negative edging. I don't know. I'm making up a landscape term when someone else is going to call it bush trimming. You know,
Yep.
so we're looking at our like big fancy words, but that's not what people are looking for.
Absolutely. So, and that's where it's stepping outside of the business owner and your comfort zone and stepping into the everyday consumer that doesn't know your industry slang or industry keywords, making sure that you're speaking in a way that is what people are going in and what they're going to be searching for.
And that's hard because, like, at least for us, people that are aquascape people like we are, we get so used to hearing the term water feature
Yep.
because that's what aquascape calls it. But then my old, my SEO people are, you know, the guys like, no one calls it that. Like they call it a
Yep.
fountain. I'm like, that's not a fountain to you, you know, so I don't have to be comfortable with it. Everyone else does.
Sure. Yeah. And the only person that would be searching for water feature is someone that's already done some due diligence, right? And so someone that's already maybe more ready to buy. So I would challenge you to do both, right? Blog posts, because if you have somebody that's searching for a water feature, they've done research somewhere
Right.
else to
Right.
even know that industry slang.
And we actually have a separate page on our website about koi pond, even though it's
Yep.
the same thing as an ecosystem pond,
Yep.
because so many people search for the term koi pond.
Yep. Absolutely.
So when you're talking about SEO, is it really like, is this all about getting Google results and your Facebook and your, I'm sorry, and your website?
I would say yes. Yes. It's all about your product or service, somebody typing that in and them coming to your front door, right? Because if someone's going to Google and they're looking for something, they are ready to buy or ready to commit to something on a certain level. So the first level that you see in Google is typically 2 or 3 paid ads, depending on that where that goes. And then depending on what you're searching on, if you're on a mobile device, the next thing you're going to see is map results. And that's in how are you doing SEO on your Google My Business listing. There's surprisingly a lot of people don't know that you can do posts on your Google My Business listing. They're called updates. You go in there and there are mini blog posts. And it changes from time to time. Right now it's a 1,500 character limit. So with that, make sure you're doing a short teaser of your blog post. And then they do allow you to put links, click on learn more, and drive traffic to your website that way.
So could this be like, I do weekly tips, both for myself and other people? Should we be putting our tips on Google My Business?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I don't do that
Absolutely.
either.
Yeah, it would make an impact, because especially on a mobile device, those map results do impact. And then you're going to see what they call your organic search results, which are people that are not paying for traffic, but they've optimized their free SEO to show up for those products or services.
And I assume, like most people, like I do, I look at the ads with a grain of salt, and then I
Yep.
really look at the organic, because I feel like that's the one that's, not paying to be front and center.
Right. So
There's more
yes,
trust, if you will.
correct. Yep. And in my mind, whether it's a jaded view or not, it doesn't matter. I don't look at ads either, because I know that those companies are paying for that spot.
Unless they're Nordstrom, and then,
Yes. Unless that top result as far as the organic SEO, because that's a website that, one, is getting traffic.
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, it's reputable. 9 times out of 10, they have reviews on there from other customers that I can read through.
Okay. And so you need to have the website, but then it needs to be informative as well, like you said. And I've seen websites that are just chock full of keywords.
Yep.
I've seen it in the pond industry and landscaping, where they're like, and then, so do you think it's a good idea or not to put every service area you offer on your homepage?
I think it depends on how many service areas you have.
Okay.
I don't think that you need to,
Because we have
on
a
a certain
lot.
basis.
So I'm
Yep.
not putting like 40 areas.
Yeah, no. So if it was something like that, I would do in the about page, have a section for areas we serve, and make sure that it's tagged properly in there,
Okay.
which is a whole nother thing that we can get on. It's not just about typing your content, but that's how you have SEO specialists that come in, because they're going to make sure that it's coded properly on the website so that Google knows what it's reading.
And so if people are talking about social media and ads, this is not that. This is just about searching, correct? And you coming up on the search?
Yeah, it is just about searching. And I think the close to this 2-part conversation that people need to realize is it needs to be all inclusive. One thing only is not going to be your savior. It's just not. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
What?
It is a lot.
You can't help me make payroll next week?
Right. It is a lot to focus on, right?
Yeah.
SEO is something that takes a long time.
Yeah.
SEO is not a short-term fix. You're not going to write a blog post tonight and be number one on Google tomorrow. It's just not the way that it works. However, with clear communication, you and I, or the SEO company that you're working with, should be crystal clear on a strategy. And like we talked about last week, if you can't articulate to someone what your SEO company is doing, you're with the wrong company.
Okay.
Right? There should be no man behind the curtain doing different things like puppet master, and you have no idea what strings are being pulled.
Right.
Because in order for SEO to work properly, you know your company better than I know your company, and that will never change. I'll know some of the back end as far as what your competitors are doing, probably a little bit better than you are based on my due diligence.
Yeah.
But if you and I aren't in communication about blog posts, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to write blogs for you, and then a customer is going to call you and say, who in the hell am I talking to? Because I just read your blog about pond plants or what type of fish to put in my pond. And then I'm talking to you like the language isn't even the same. It has to be at a point where at least the first couple blogs that are posted, we're reviewing and we're talking about together, and we're saying, okay, this is why we use these headlines. This is why we use these keywords. This is why we use this call to action, so that it sounds fluid.
And we, it's a funny story that matches that. So this past year, I send out weekly pond tips. Yep. And this year, a customer called very upset because what was on the pond tip was not the way our guys were doing it. Like, oh God. But then I realized like they're not reading my pond tips. So now at our weekly meeting, I read the tip for next week.
Yep.
So the guys know, and then they also can say to the customer, this is why we're not doing it that way.
Yep.
you wanted your aerator on a ledge. You don't have a ledge.
Yep. And that's where with the way that SEO is going right now, especially with the freight train going down the track of AI.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people are going into Chat GPT and they're typing, write a blog post for me about whatever. They're copying and pasting that blog post directly. Will that work? Maybe. But a lot of people aren't even reading the content that this thing is putting out and making sure that it makes sense.
Yep.
Right. So I challenge anybody that is, I want to improve my SEO. I'm horrible at writing content. I want to use AI. Great. Go in and experiment with it. But use the AI to get you thinking and use the AI to prompt you for different ideas. Right. So I owned a pond company. I need some ideas for a blog post that would help my keyword ranking for pond builders near me. Let it give you ideas. Don't let it give you the content.
And I'll give you a great example of that. I have a friend who listens to this podcast, so he knows who he is. And he uses AI to write Facebook posts for himself.
Yep.
Sometimes it works, and sometimes they are horrible.
Horrible.
And not
Yep.
what he does.
Yep.
And it's like, we recommend bottom drain ponds. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, you don't. And he's like, oh God, I'll switch that. Because
Yep.
I'll call him out and be like, dude, this is not. And he's like, oh yeah, I didn't look at it. So he lets these things write themselves. And then they write things about like, you can use chemicals to clear up algae. We're like, no, you can use chemicals to fix a pond leak, which makes no sense.
Right.
But he's not reading it. And so like what you're saying is, use it as a tool, but
Yep.
not as a solution, if you will.
Yeah. And a tool could be something as, I wrote a paragraph about something. I'm reading it back and the paragraph just sounds horrible. Copy and paste the paragraph in. Give me 3 different versions of this paragraph. Use it as a tool, not as a replacement.
Okay. That's, I've seen it. And like this guy, and sometimes I'll take a screenshot and I'm like, and he's like, oh shit, let me change that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens all the time. And you can tell who's doing it and who's not.
And it just makes me laugh every time. Like, it's like my, at this point, it's my humor. I'm like, what's he have to today? And I follow him not because I'm, because I just think it's funny. Cause I'm like, dude, hire me. You're not writing the right tips.
Yep. Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question that's basically akin to choosing your favorite child, which is, what the question's going to be. What's more important, SEO or SEM?
I would say that SEO is more important because it's long-term sustainability, right? So SEM is great and it will get you results, but you could have a new competitor come on the block and spend $20,000 where your budget is not there, and they're going to outrank you on every single keyword that pops up.
That's so interesting. I really never thought of it that way. I thought you were going to say SEM.
No, so SEO is long-term sustainability
because that's not purchasable.
Correct.
If you will, your reputation is not for sale as an ad at the top is.
Right. Right.
Now, can people do SEO themselves, or why should they hire a company?
Absolutely. People can do SEO themselves, but I would tell you that the majority of people are not doing SEO themselves.
Or not doing it correctly.
Yeah, I know. I think that there's a lot of people out there that think that they're doing SEO. But a lot of people don't even know that the Google Search Console is something that exists. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Google and type in Google Search Console, and you will go down a rabbit hole of the fact that just because you publish something online doesn't mean that it shows up in Google search results. So the Google Search Console is something where you need to go in and register your website. And when you post a blog, you need to go back to Google Search Console and type in the URL that you just published and let Google scrape that URL. If not, you are just sitting back and waiting for Google robots to randomly crawl your website and rank that article.
So you're handing it to them instead of waiting for them to find you.
You're raising your hand and saying, hey, put this in line.
Interesting. So there you go. That's something I didn't know. So
and again, with SEO, just like we talked about last week, I'm not going to do it for you.
Okay.
I don't want to do it for you. I want to do it with you, because there's going to be things where you and I will develop a relationship in SEO where you'll call me and say, hey, what about this site?
Yeah.
Because you're seeing things every day in your daily business that would be great articles, that would be great changes to the website, great Google business posts that I'm not seeing because
Right.
I'm not there. So if we develop a two-way relationship, you're going to pick up that phone on the way home from a job and say, hey, I just had this question. It's been the 5th time I've asked this week. We need to add this to the FAQ page.
Okay. And that's something I tell my guys, because I always want them to make short video shorts, which,
Yep.
and something I say is, what do customers ask you? What are the questions you get asked? What do people, and a lot of it is what we consider simple, like how often do I feed my fish?
Yep.
That's a question that, what do I do about heron? These are
Yep.
questions that come up over and over and over.
Yep, absolutely. And to
But
you,
you
it's
wouldn't
like,
know that necessarily.
you're just robotic. You're just robotic that you're just spitting that off. I don't know that because I'm
Right.
not in the field talking to your customers.
Right.
I would probably know that from doing research on how many people are going to Google and asking that,
Right.
but not necessarily. Because
Okay.
most people that have stupid questions like that in their mind, they think like, no, I'm not asking that. Because it's just like the kid at school where the teacher's like, anybody have any questions? And you're like, yeah, I have 6, but they're all stupid. I'm not asking them. A lot of people have that mentality.
And that's actually the best question, probably. And everyone else is
Yep.
like, I'm so glad you asked that.
Yep, absolutely.
I didn't know either. And it's funny because I spend a lot of time on my weekly pond tips talking about those things, answering things that people are going to ask. How big will my koi grow? What do
Yep.
my fish do in the winter? Things that are basic questions that we get asked.
Yep.
So the same thing that I asked you about SEM, how does someone find an SEO company that's the right fit for them?
It all comes down to that conversation. Most people are so scared to have a direct conversation with somebody.
Okay.
And most SEO companies will promise you that they can do everything under the sun. And I'll tell you right now, SEO is not an overnight fix. SEO is not going to be launch a Google ad and you're going to get clicks tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. If your SEO is a train wreck or non-existent, can you notice an almost immediate result? Yes. But that immediate result isn't going to be people are ready to raise their hand, knocking down your door to buy business. It's going to be an increase in traffic that you're going to notice. And again, the challenge is it's great to hire me as an SEO service, but if I'm getting you more traffic and your process is an absolute cluster, it doesn't matter.
You need to know what to do with it. And no, I think that's really important to know. Now, I also know, probably like everyone else, I'd say I get 6 emails a week from random people telling me your page is great, but it could be ranked higher. I can help you. Do you want a free? Should anyone ever be clicking on those free analysis, or is that not worth it?
So welcome to the world of AI, where that is going to continue to get worse because you can literally take about 10 minutes and program a chat GPT API to go through and scrub websites and send those emails automatically. For those of you that have websites right now, make sure that you have a Google CAPTCHA on your website form so that a lot of this robotic stuff will stop. No, I would challenge you not to click on any of those links.
I never have. Don't worry.
There's some free reputable tools that are out there that I'll shoot you some links that you can put in the description of this podcast.
Great.
That are reputable links that people can do free scans on. And again, the problem is with these free scans, the majority of people aren't going to know what the results mean, or they're going to think that they know how to impact them. And it's about shrinking down time, right? So you can take each one of those results you can Google them and you can find out how to fix them, and you can go to Google and figure out that 5 of the ways out of the 10 that they told you are wrong and come back and get frustrated and figure out yourself, or you can pay somebody to do it on your own.
But again, pay someone someone with recommendations, someone you're aware of, someone, that has a little skin in the game, US based, I'd say.
Absolutely. And US based or not, make sure that they've worked with clients.
And maybe that's not the right way to put it, but you know what I mean. Yeah,
no,
you put it better.
I do. I get it, because we've all gone to Fiverr to try to do something, whether it's a video or a graphic, and got something back that looks like my 7-year-old could do it better. We've all been down that road.
I once hired, we have a graphic designer we've had for 22 years, and he doesn't even do it anymore, but he still does it for us because I tease him, we're grandfathered in. He's like, whatever. Now he's a t-shirt designer, so he makes our t-shirts too.
Love it.
But I didn't want to bother him about 8 years ago for my daughter's logo for her bat mitzvah. So I went to Fiverr and it was such a hot mess. And he was like peeing himself laughing. He's like, I cannot believe you paid even $5 for this. Why do you? I'm
Yep.
like, I don't know. I didn't want to bother you. And he's like, oh my God, Laura. So you get what you pay for,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Absolutely. You do. And the amount of time that you waste going back and forth on that, there's no price that you can put on that either.
Right. So again,
But
what you're saying is it comes down to personal connections, just like with most things in business.
yeah, I'll say this for anybody that is questioning their SEO, you can go over to breaktheimage.com. There's a free report that you can pull on your website. Look at that report. If any of your grades are less than desirable, and it's a letter grade, just like you're back in school, it's a letter grade. If any of your grades are less than desirable, we can have a conversation. And just like I talked about with SEM, if there's stuff that you can do for free that you don't need me to do, and I get the overview that you are somewhat tech savvy, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what to do. Go do it.
Or if you're someone like me that doesn't have the time nor inclination to do it,
Absolutely. And that's up to you.
and I
Right?
have
I
the
mean,
money to pay for someone else to do it, which is great. And I want to be busy making more money, not learning something that is not my skill set.
yep. And that's it depends on where you are. Every business is at a different place.
Yep.
Some people have the ability to bring someone else in on their team, and other people are struggling month to month. And
Bootstraps. Yeah.
I get it. I get it. And it's not you can't help everybody. I understand that, but there's some basic things that every single person could do that don't cost anything other than your time.
Okay. So check out breaktheimage.com and click on the free, what's it
As
called?
it's a free SEO audit.
Free SEO audit. That's a tongue
Yes.
twister. So any final words of advice like we did with SEM? What would you say to someone looking to get into this SEO process besides the fact of have patience?
Stop overthinking. Stop
Mm.
overthinking the content piece. Right? Most people struggle with the content piece, and there's so much basic stuff that you can do, like posting on the Google My Business profile,
Mhm.
making sure that when you get reviews, that you are responding back to those reviews and that you are interacting with those reviews. It does help your SEO. Making sure that on your website that it is clearly indicated what services you offer someone, and do not just lump sum your services into one section on your site. Each page, like if you do basement remodels, decks, kitchens, you got to have a page for each service that you offer so that you have that space, like you're playing Monopoly, you have that space in Google for that page to rank.
Okay. Makes sense. So people want to reach out to you. They go to www.breaktheimage.com.
Yep, that's the quickest way.
And they can find out information. I'm so excited to work with you on SEM. And you know what I really like about you and working with you is you're very honest, and you looked at my SEO and you
Yep.
actually told me it was good.
Yeah. No,
So
and that's where anybody can come in and nitpick, and there are things that I'll do differently that,
right,
that aren't right, aren't wrong. They're
just
just
different.
my approach, what I found in my experience that works. And it's okay. You can talk to 5 SEO guys and get 5 completely different strategies. That's fine. But if you come to me and want me to audit your website and your SEO is okay, I'm going to tell you it's okay. I'm also going to give you recommendations on how I might do things differently.
Okay.
It's not saying that you're wrong.
I got you. It's just different.
Right.
All right. Well, these have been 2 super informative conversations. I appreciate you and your time so much. I had just a wealth of knowledge and I have learned a lot. And let me tell you, I need to get going on some of this stuff because I'm like, ooh, I'm behind. But like you said, instead of feeling bad for myself and saying, this is too much, I can't do this, I'm going to start with one thing and I'm going to commit to starting with Google My Business.
I love it. I love it. It
And
works.
getting that straight. And once that's straightened out, then I can offer the service to other people too, which is even cooler.
Yes, absolutely. Because people do not have the time to do
No,
it. And
no.
that's it's not one of those excuses like I don't have time to go to the gym or
Right.
make time. It's a reality in a lot of business owners' world. And the amount of time that they would have to spend researching and learning how to do this stuff, spend your time elsewhere.
Okay. I love it. Thank you, Jeff. You have been super informative and helpful both weeks. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment on my podcast and YouTube. You can find me on both. And feel free to text me anytime, 215-805-8257. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate your time. Have a great week.
Absolutely. You as well.